Hello and welcome to the latest episode of The Sales Circle, the sales podcast that is designed to help you improve your sales skills and help you to increase your sales. My name is Rob Spence, your host, an internationally renowned sales trainer, sales author, sales coach, and the managing director, I should say, of a wonderful sales and marketing company called Paragon Sales Solutions. And welcome to this latest episode of The Sales Circle. As always, I want to start with a big thank you. Thank you to those that tune in. We've had some great listeners across the world. We've had some great questions sent in. If this is your first ever episode with us, then welcome. We like to try and keep these episodes to around 30 minutes, which should kind of fall in line with your commute or travel to your next sales meeting. And in each episode, they are, how do I put this? A sales training without a sales training. Yes, there are some sales training elements. And of course, we will go through various sales training ideas, thoughts, concepts, but obviously not in depth. It's going to bore you and amaze you and overwhelm you. We talk about a key concept every week, mixed with listeners' questions, mixed with book recommendations, and of course some training entwined. So today's episode is all about rejection. Look, if you're a salesperson, you're going to get rejected. Maybe you're an experienced salespeople, maybe more experienced than I. You know just how often we can get rejected, whether that's a cold call, whether that's we've worked on a client and lo and behold, they pull out at the last minute, they reject a proposal, whatever it is. Sometimes it could be we're following up too many times and we're beaten by the competition. Maybe people reject us on price. Numerous ways. And in this episode, we're going to talk about rejection, how we can overcome it, and the mindset that you should take. Oh, sorry, bless me, Jesus. And God, steps you can take to help overcome that and to keep pushing forward to make more sales. So whether you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, please do hit the follow button, give us a 5-star review. Of course, if you're watching on YouTube, please do hit that subscribe button. It means a lot. And if you are seeing this as a social media clip, hit that follow button. We want to really increase our viewership and our listenership so that we can improve sales across the world. So without further ado, let's try to understand the theories and understand rejection in sales. As I said earlier in the introduction, rejection comes part and parcel. Rejection comes in line with sales. I've never met a salesperson that's never been rejected. And look, if you are if you are working in sales and not being rejected, then come and work for me. I'd love to know your secrets. But there's a number of reasons why sales don't go through. Now, we will be doing an episode in due course on objections, where we're going to be looking into objections in a bit more depth and how you can overcome those objections. And if I'm honest, what I like to do is try and work out ways in which we can stop that objection happening in the first place. But today I want to look at rejection. Let's look before we go on. Let's look at some statistics on sales rejection. Now, one of the key things that I always kind of talk to my sales teams about, and I talk to the people that work within my business, and I believe it's a statistic that we have shared several times on the podcast now, but 80% of sales require 5 or more follow-up. So we've got to keep following up. We know that we've got to keep going. We know that we can't give up, whether that's on 1 follow-up, 2 follow-up. We know that it's going to take 5 or more. Now, I normally kind of say aim for 7 or 12 follow-ups. 7 or 12 is quite a magic sweet spot, right? We never go to bed on the first date. We never, accept a marriage proposal on the first date or on the first meal. We've got to keep following up. It's vitally, vitally important. Here's the thing, and this is what I really want to get ingrained in you. 44% of salespeople give up after just 1 follow-up. 44%. Let's call it half. Half of salespeople give up after 1 follow-up. So if you are being rejected and you're just giving up straight away, there's some statistics and science there to say that you should keep going. Now, sales reps who don't let rejection stop them are 33 times more likely to hit their quotas, and that's a statistic from Everyone's Social. So, look, a third of salespeople are more likely to hit their target if they don't give up, if they take rejection through gritted teeth, like water off a duck's back, they keep going. And of course, this is one we 100% shared last week. This is from a company called Spotio. It takes an average of 8 cold calls to reach a decision maker. That's 8. So what I want you to remember, and I think this is the burning point in all of today's podcast, is if you are being rejected, if you're making cold call after cold call after cold call, and you're not getting anywhere, do not give up. Maybe you're listening to this as a business owner, maybe you're an entrepreneur, maybe you've just set up a business, no matter what it is, and you are doing what every business owner should do, in my opinion. And in last week's episode, please do go check it out. We spoke in depth about the importance of cold calling. What we should be doing is make sure we're not giving up too soon. I've seen it, so often that people give up far too easily, and that's where the magic happens. And I'd like to just take this time to share with you a real impactful thing that I've spoken about in training for many years, and I've kind of illustrated it with this jug here, and I sometimes take it on sales training. You can hear, hold on. I bet that sounded absolutely horrible. If I were to hand this jug to you and I said to you, look, there's 100 goodie balls in here, like little capsules. 99 of them are empty, nothing. Maybe 2p is within them. But one of them is a golden ball made out of pure gold, heavy gold, worth millions. And I said to you, look, you're not allowed to look inside the pot, but what I want you to do is just one by one, take the balls out. If that first one is in the gold ball, you're not necessarily going to give up, are you? You know that the right one is still in there. Once again, you pick out number 2, still not the golden ball. Are you ready to give up yet? No, because you know that the golden ball is in there. Once again, you pull the third out, still nothing, no golden ball. It's here on the third ball where many business owners, entrepreneurs go, do you know what? I'm going to stop prospecting. I'm going to stop cold calling. I'm going to, just stop now. And that's when the magic happens. That's when people start to find the golden eggs. They start to find that golden ball worth hundreds, if not thousands, if not millions of pounds as a contract. This is what I want you to get into your mindset. Just because we've been rejected these, 1, 2, 3, 4 times doesn't mean that there's not a golden ball out there. It doesn't mean there's not a golden egg located within our prospecting bin. We know that there is, but we've got to keep going. So don't give up. So why does rejection happen? Once again, we can talk for hours about objections, and there will be a specific example, specific podcast soon about objections. But look, sometimes it's not the right fit. Sometimes your product, your service, you're offering, maybe your business, are just not the right fit for the prospect. Sometimes you just, align with their needs. Sometimes it could be down to time. Sometimes, you've called at the wrong time. They've just signed up into a contract. Maybe you're a cleaning company and your contract, you've just called up someone. They've just signed a new 3-year contract. Poor timing, right? Happens all the time. Sometimes, of course, there are budget constraints. Of course, one of the biggest objections we're ever going to face is I can't afford it, don't have the money. But literally, sometimes budgets are very tight, right? And sometimes psychological factors could come into line. One of the big things, or 2 of the big psychological factors I can think of, are fear of change. Who likes change, right? I've never met a human being that's like, yeah, I love change. Let me change all the time. And also sometimes it's overwhelm. If you are bombarding your prospect with messaging about all these features and you're bombarding and scaring your customer, that makes them reluctant to take the leap because it's a big decision, which once again, people don't like. So what's the emotional impact of rejection? And I guess as a salesperson, how can we overcome that? Let's be truthful here. Rejection hurts. There is not one person in the world that truly, loves to be rejected. We all want some kind of feeling of being wanted. We all want to be accepted. We all want to be able to talk about something, or an idea, a concept that other people like, want, need. No one really likes rejection. And when we sort of are rejected as salespeople or business owners or entrepreneurs, there is an emotional and sometimes a psychological impact on that. Of course, there is self-doubt. We start to talk down about ourselves. We start to think, look, are we not good enough? Am I not good enough? Is my product or service not good enough? Is my business not good enough? And I think for some salespeople, the actual kind of, the worst one actually can be a self-doubt that, am I not good enough? And we've got to be really careful. We've got to accept it. I think, look, I'm not an emotional expert. I'm not, here to teach you all about EQ and emotional intelligence, but the the fact of the matter is that emotions are an important part that play, a huge part in our lives, daily lives. We can't null and void those emotions. We've got to understand them, accept them, and understand the trigger points and understand how we can overcome them and perhaps reframe them to some degree as well. Of course, that can lead to a fear of failure. And I think when we incur a fear of failure, it stops us from actually wanting to try, right? If you know that you're going to keep putting your hand into a fire and you know it hurts, every time it hurts, there comes a point where you go, do you know what? I'm not going to put my hand in that fire. It is too painful. The same happens for salespeople. I've seen it time and time again. They get rejected, and they go, do you know what? I'm sick of this. Sometimes it's not even as conscious as that. Sometimes it's the subconscious. And they go, do you know what? I'm going to procrastinate. Instead of doing my 10 cold calls today, instead of doing my hour of prospecting, I'm going to do the admin. I'm going to go make a coffee. I'm going to go catch up with my school friend or whatever it is, right? But these things happen. And of course, that then in turn leads to decreased motivation. If you're not willing to do it, you think, oh, do you know what? I just can't bother with this anymore. Like that fear of failure and that self-doubt should never be undervalued. I've seen it all too often. It's happened to me personally, but we've got to reframe it. What we've always got to remember, unless you do something horrendously wrong, unless you offend, annoy, piss off, whatever it is, it's very rare that the rejection is personal. The rejection is normally about your product, your service, your offering. And sometimes, like I say, if you think back to why people reject things with it not being the right fit, money requirements, sometimes timing and psychological factors of the prospect, sometimes it's 100% not you. So we can't take it personally. But what we should be doing is understanding that we can get through this. Now, once again, please do remember that you are not alone. And I know this kind of sounds like counseling right now, but maybe you're driving home from a sales meeting. Every salesperson gets rejected. You want to go home to your husband, to your spouse, to your wife, to your partner and be like, look, I brought the money home. I brought home the bacon today. But it doesn't happen every day. So please don't bury your head in the sand. I myself, I will never say I'm the perfect salesperson, but I've sold everything from, £7.50 plaques of blue roll right up to, £50,000, £100,000 contracts for lead generation and telemarketing, right through to every other service that I sell within the business. I've been rejected, okay? So many times, right? So many times it's unreal. And I think the historical days of me selling, I was downbeat. I was hurt. I did start to procrastinate. I took it personally. I thought about why I wasn't good enough. And actually, the more you can do and the more you can kind of reframe that rejection, the better at sales you will become. So, going to share some quick, simple, easy tips in which you can reframe some of these rejections. I've got 5 tips to share with you. And please do share these with a colleague. Look, if you're working a big sales team, send a link to this podcast to one of your team members because I have no doubt they'll thank you for it. Tip number 1, shift your mindset, okay? Look, there's that old adage of sales. Look, every no gets you one step closer to a yes. If you remember my jug theory here, for every no, it brings us closer to bringing out this yes, okay? It is a thing. The more no's that we can get, the better. I'd never say purposely go out and try and get rejected because I don't think it quite works like that. But the beauty of it is the more no's you get, the yeses you get. The key thing is learning. Every time you are rejected, try and learn why. Is it a personal thing? Is the way you are pitching? Is the price too high? Is the price too low? Are you bombarding your client? Are you targeting the wrong people at the wrong time? As long as we can learn from it and try and reframe that and try and do better, you'll be quizzing eventually. A famous author, and actually as part of my book recommendation later on, Zig Ziglar, he went on to say every sale has 5 basic obstacles. No need, no money, no hurry, no desire, no trust. These are the 5 things that I talk about in a lot of my objection handling. If we can learn how to overcome those, you'll be absolutely quids in. Of course, preparation and resilience are absolutely crucial. We've got to know our product, our service, and our business inside and out. Sometimes a lack of confidence in a salesperson can really put prospects and potential customers off. If you're umming, erring, unsure, don't know, only talking about what you want to talk about because that's what you know, it can really put you down. So make sure you know everything inside out. Preempt questions, preempt objections. If you get faced with an objection you've not heard before, make a mental note, be prepared for it next time. Now, of course, when you are dealing with the no, how we handle that no, once again, is critically important. We don't want ever to burn bridges because we've done a lot of work to plant that seed, to nurture that seed. What we don't want to do, just because the fruit's not ready to harvest, is walk away and neglect it, okay? And once again, I've seen it so many times with salespeople, time and time again. Make sure that we leave the door open for future opportunities. You never know when things will change. You know, an example response I've penned down here. Look, I understand it's not the right time for you. I apologize. Look, I'd love to work with you in the future. Why don't we reconnect in 6 months' time? Why don't I take you out for dinner in a couple of weeks? Or listen, when would you like to revisit this? As long as we leave that door open, who knows what could happen. We've got a client right now that we've just lost. I'll use the word lost. We lost a client to a competitor. We put in a big proposal, built a good relationship with his people. They loved us. The guy absolutely adored us. Someone above him in their head office has decided to go to another competitor of ours. Oof, hurts. Absolutely hurts. But actually, I'm not too fussed because that competitor has lost clients to us previously. Because what happens is they're very niched in this audience. Hopefully, but not hopefully, they'll do a bad job. Who do I want to be the first person that my prospect, my customer thinks of when that goes wrong? Me and my team. So I'm going to leave that door open. Don't be afraid to build a support network around you, whether you think it's lame, cheesy, whatever. You need to surround yourself with mentors, colleagues, peers, and a community that understands your ups and downs. You want to be surrounded by a community that are there to support you. Sometimes that can be your friends. Sometimes it can be your peers, your network. Rely on other people. Similar, really simple emotional equations here. The more you share, the less is on your back. If you are looking for a community that is supportive, that is there to help and support you, find the Sales Circle on Facebook. We've got a growing community over there full of salespeople. Share your thoughts, share your concerns, share your ideas, and let's unload that burden. And finally, track your progress. Try and understand where things are going wrong. Use a CRM system. If you're not using a CRM, then please do let me know. I'll hook you up pretty quick. Even if it's just a journal, notes on your iMac or whatever, try and understand where things are going wrong, where things are going down. Because once again, how can you fix things if you don't know what's not working, if you don't know where things need to be fixed? So track everything down. So remember, as an overview, shift your mindset, prepare, deal with the no in an appropriate fashion, build that support network, and make sure you track your progress. If you are looking for further support to boost your sales skills, then check out our online sales training courses. They're available to take part in wherever in the world you are and at any time, with sales training on any sales skill. Head on over to the Paragon Sales Solutions website to find out more. Okay, so we're timing things quite nicely today. As always, I'm open to feedback as well. If you want to see or hear certain things within this podcast that maybe I'm missing out on, do send me a message. Head on over to social media or just drop me an email, thesalescircleofficial@gmail.com, or hunt me down on LinkedIn. My name's Rob Spence, or my company, Paragon Sales Solutions. Now, this is always one of my favorite parts of the show. This is where we get listeners to send in their questions. I've got a big bank full of questions now, so thank you so much to those of you that are sending those in, but please don't be afraid to send them in. I'll always get round to them eventually. And I've pulled out 3 that kind of talk about objections as best as possible. As before, if you do want to send them in, social media, into our group on Facebook, or thesalescircleofficial@gmail.com. So we've had one from Harry. Hey Harry, thanks for tuning in. Harry, Manchester. No, thanks for tuning in, Harry. Much appreciated. So, how do you stay motivated after several rejections in a row? Big question, right? And I don't think there's any of us that have never faced this. So how do you stay motivated after several rejections in a row? Look, for me, I think it's all about trying to set minimal goals and gamifying the whole process of sales. It's very easy to walk away when things aren't going well. And sometimes it's very easy to walk away when things are going right, aren't they? But if you set up tiny little goals and celebrate those small wins, you're going to be more determined and, fiery to go and get that next win, that next result. So maybe at the start of the day, start of the week, and maybe this is an activity that you can do right now. Think of it. Let's do it for a week. Think to yourself, how many positive conversations do I want to have? Try and forget about, the amount of dials you make in a day, the amount of messages you send in a day. What about the positive conversations in a week? Even if it's only 3 or 5, try and reverse engineer that. How many messages will I need to achieve those, positive conversations? And what am I going to do when I have those positive conversations? Sometimes it can just be small, like, grabbing a tea, grabbing a coffee, having a quick scroll on TikTok, whatever it is. But try and find something to do to kind of reward yourself and hold off that reward until you get it. As I said earlier, try and just remember that the rejection is nothing personal. There is a golden egg out there somewhere. You've just got to find it. This one's come in anonymous. So if you have shared this in, please do write back in. I'll give you a shout out. So what's the best way to follow up after being told no? I personally think each situation is going to be different. I think your prospect better than I. If we go back to what we said earlier, we want to keep the door open. We want to keep communicating. We want to be the first person that person thinks about when they come back or when we re-engage that conversation. So don't just close the door and say, yeah, no worries, when you're ready, come back to me. Once again, it's boring sales talk, right? No one should come back to you. You're the salesperson. You should get out there and hunt it. So keep the door open. Maybe something nice and personalized. Maybe at the very least, a LinkedIn message, an email, probably at the best, a handwritten note, a handwritten letter. And just keep that door open. Sometimes you can sort of set the ground rules with the prospect. Say, look, I know you're not ready to buy now. You're in a contract. I do want to keep in touch because, look, we'd love to carry the conversation on and hopefully we can do some business in the future. When's best for me to reach out to you? When should we have a conversation? When should we have coffee? But once again, it depends on the contract. Every 3 to 6 weeks is a good time to follow up. The key thing is to kind of keep those touch points in place. You don't always have to be salesy with it. You don't always have to be, hey, just checking in, just following up. It could just be sharing industry insights, talking about a blog post the prospects recently discussed. It's sales without selling, right? Final question from Nicole. Thanks for tuning in, Nicole. Really appreciate it. This one says, how can I tell if a rejection is final or I should try again later? I think once again, and I'm sure we mentioned this in a previous podcast, keep going until you are told to F off or the police are called, right? Of course, you can ask the prospect direct. You can ask them, look, I hear this a lot. Just want to know, do you want me to follow up with you in 3 months or so? Or are you closing the door on this completely? I don't want to waste your time here. You can try and get that conversation going there. Sometimes you can kind of pick up, but play dumb. You don't have to be definitive. Even if someone says, look, no, this is the final thing. We're not going to explore this any further. Where's the harm in following up or sending a written letter within 6 months? Where's the harm? Yeah, you spend £1 on a letter going in, but what if that contract's worth 10, 20, 30, 40, 100 grand? Surely it's worth the post of a stamp, the cost of a stamp, right? So going back to your question, if a rejection is final, ask. Communication is absolutely key with everything in sales. And just keep going. Like I say, I've been rejected time and time again as a salesperson. I think the thing that's really stood my career out and the thing that's really determined the success of my business, and brief synopsis, I turned my business out to £300 in my bank account, corner of a bedroom on an old iMac, to now we employ, 13 people, give or take, some full-time, some part-time. We're turning over 6 figures annually. We're in profit every year. We're growing 35%, 40% year on year. We are seeing exponential growth. And the thing that's really pushed that is the determination to not give up and to truly win the sale. So if I can do it, then you can do it too. Okay, so we're at the stage of the podcast where we talk about my book recommendation of the week. If you are new to any of my work, you will know that I love reading. I love sales knowledge. I think every salesperson should read, should invest in themselves, should do what they can to learn what they can about sales. And for me, one of the big things that really changed my career was reading. I remember at the time, I was going through some stuff personally, didn't have a lot of disposable income, but wanted to become a better salesperson. I wanted to sell more. I wanted to do the best for my customers. I wanted to do the best for the company that I worked for, and I invested in a book. And maybe I've not actually talked about that on the podcast, actually. Maybe that's a show for another day. And I believe that sales has really helped take my career up to that next level. And today's book recommendation is Zig Ziglar's Selling 101. Now, if you've never heard of Zig Ziglar, then where have you been? Zig Ziglar's probably one of the coolest named, but also probably one of the most famous sales trainers, sales authors of our time. And he's authored, dozens, if not hundreds of books on sales. The reason I've chose this one out is, as you can see, it's quite a small read. It's that A5 size. It's about the size of my palm for those listening on Spotify and everything else. So it's very small. How many pages it got? 100 pages. I wonder if that's related to the 101, maybe. I don't know. But a very short book. But this is one of the first books I ever purchased, and it's a great book. The reason I love it is because Zig Ziglar's got such a great way, although some of his work is slightly older now, he's got a great way of communicating with the reader, and it really translates nicely into the modern day. And once again, because it is quite a short book, you don't have to really invest a lot of time. Once again, you could literally, and I hate to sound crude here, you could have this on your toilet and you could read a bit by bit, day by day, and you're still going to learn. Let's read some of the blurb. So you don't have to wait for things to happen. You have the power to make things happen. Selling 101 describes the basics of how you can persuade people more effectively, more ethically, and more often. You'll also discover that there is virtually nothing on earth that brings as much personal satisfaction as being able to save another person time, money, or frustration because of the goods, products, and services you have to offer. So he goes through, he talks about working smarter, taking things above customer services, sell by design, not chance, close more sales, become a persuader, and overcoming sales call and sales reluctance, which we've kind of talked about today. Great book. Like I say, this sits on my priority list behind me. It's a great read. Even now, just reading the back, I was like, I want to read this again, and I'll be making sure that some of my team read it. So do get your hands on a copy of this. As always, I put a link below in the show notes for you to pick up your own. So please do go ahead and grab a copy. It's a great read. To be fair, anything by Zig Ziglar, but this one in particular is a great, snappy, punchy read. So do go ahead and read it and let me know what you think. And we're just about there at the end of the show. How did we do on time for there? We must be. The time is 27 minutes in, so we're just about there. Now, look, as always, I want to say a massive thank you for tuning in and listening. I get that sales is not easy. Sales is a skill, probably the most important skill in any business. So whether you're listening to this as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, a CEO, a salesperson, a sales manager perhaps, you will know that you are the driving force of your business. So keep pushing it forward. If you're not selling, you do not have a business. And the fact that you are listening to this podcast proves to me that you really want to take things to the next level. We're still quite early in the sales circle. We're still quite early. And there's so much more that I want to share with you. So please hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button, no matter where you're watching or listening. Make sure you share it with your sales teams. And as I said earlier, hit some sales targets this week. I'd love to know how you're getting on. If you do have a burning question about sales you want to know more about, head on over to social media. We're on every social media platform going. Find me on YouTube, LinkedIn. You'll find me. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Sales Circle. Until next time, all the best. And that's it for another episode of the Sales Circle. Make sure you hit that follow button, join us over on social media, and we'll see you next week.